Dr. Brad Young has written the following in his book, Jesus, the Jewish Theologian. Quote, "Theologians have read the Gospels as Christian literature written by the church and for the church. When Jesus is viewed among the Gentiles, the significance of Jewish culture and custom is minimized or forgotten altogether. But when Jesus is viewed as a Jew within the context of the first century Judaism, an entirely different portrait emerges." End quote. I want to speak to you in this session about rabbis and disciples, because we're now closing in, as it were, on the real core of the life of the man Jesus, our Hebrew Lord, the historical Jesus of Nazareth. Remember, I made the distinction, and it's important to keep in mind that what we're doing in this seminar is looking at the man. Hine ha'adam, behold the man. This is not in any way to diminish the significance of the culminating events to the life of the man Jesus, his sacrificial death, burial, and resurrection. It's not in any way to diminish the fact that he shall return as the glorious Son of Man coming on clouds of glory. It is, on the other hand, to emphasize that which too often we have ignored, and that is the historical setting and the Jewish matrix of his life as a man. I remember once teaching at a seminary in Germany, and after some sessions, I had one of the seminary students, a pastor, come up to me a bit anxious, almost to the point of irritation. He said, "Why do you keep talking about the Jewishness of Jesus? Don't you know Paul says we no longer know him after the flesh? He's now risen. He's the universal man." And de facto, this is actually how a lot of people think, that his Jewishness is historically a fact, but it's incidental to any spiritual significance. It was a point in time 2,000 years ago when it was relevant. But I said to him, there are two problems with your point of view. Number one, every culture that has conceived and thought of Jesus primarily as universal man, the cosmic Christ, invariably paints a portrait of him in their own image. Will always impose our culture on Jesus rather than be conformed to his image. So I said there really is no such thing as a universal man, because we'll all image him after something. And what we do is unconsciously we image him after ourselves. I said the other problem is, if I read the scriptures correctly, not only was he born a Jew, reared as a Jew, taught as a Jew, died as a Jew, with the Psalms upon his lips, in classic Jewish expression, but he was raised from the dead as a Jew, and the scripture says that he's coming back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and he's coming back to Jerusalem. So the Jewishness of Jesus is integral to his identity and his ongoing reality. When Paul talks about the fact that he's risen, the risen Christ, he's always linked him specifically with Jesus of Nazareth. We must put him in his Jewish setting. And when we do so, it can ruffle some feathers. Because there is in us, from the earliest centuries of our Christian heritage, at the very least, misgivings, sometimes stronger, sometimes feelings of antipathy towards Jews and Jewish things. In fact, sometimes it gets so strong as to be labeled anti-Semitic. This is a history that we have to reckon with when we talk about Jesus. I'm going to explain to you here that you're going to understand Yeshua Minatzeret, Jesus of Nazareth, you need to think of him in the context of the Pharisees and the sages.